introduce everybody to Michele Siekerka, who is the President and CEO of NJBIA, which is the largest membership organization in New Jersey and just about anywhere. And we're thrilled to have her talking to our panelists.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Michele Siekerka, President and CEO at the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. Truly my pleasure to be joined by these amazing women this morning to talk about what are the barriers for breaking into leadership in the women in technology space. But really, we're going to focus on broader terms of leadership and just what it takes to rise, and what rise actually means, because it can mean many, many different things. I think we all have different visions of what leadership is and what the idea of rising in our careers are. So we have a great panel this morning with Nexaida, Patrice, and Pamela. Ladies, thanks so much for joining us. And we're going to jump right in because rather than me do introductions, I'd like you to tell briefly a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your journey. So Nexaida, we're going to start with you.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Uber excited to participate of this conference. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm IT support manager, help desk manager at Metropolitan Commercial Bank. I'm very proud to be a member of Metropolitan Commercial Bank. I started working in education. I spent 14 years as an educator. And then eventually I transitioned to IT. And I think that was the best decision of my life. I'm very happy. It's a very demanding field, but I think that we have great opportunities and we have a lot of challenges, a lot of barriers, but at the same time, I think it's worthy. Right, to be part of this technology force. And eventually we're going to be talking a little bit more. I don't know, Michele, you want me to tell my whole story now, or we can?
I think we'll bring it back around. Thanks so much, Nexaida. Patrice, you want to pick up? Absolutely. Patrice, you want to pick up from there?
Sure. Thanks, Michele, and thank you, Chaya, for organizing this conference. I'm Patrice Tanaka. I was born and raised in Hawaii, although I've been living most of my life in New York City. And even though I've lived in New York City longer than in Hawaii, I do try to live my life with the aloha spirit. Most of my career has been in PR and marketing, during which time I co-founded 3 award-winning agencies, including the last one, which is one of the top 10 largest independent PR firms in the country with 240 employee owners. And I was very proud about the fact that we created the largest employee-owned PR agency in the country, because the first agency I co-founded was an employee-owned PR agency. I actually led a group of colleagues in a management buyback from Chiat Advertising to start PT & Company, our employee-owned agency, with 13 employee owners. And we really tried to create an agency that was a workplace community. And in 1990, when we started the agency, we were pioneers in trying to create an employee-friendly workplace. In fact, I think we were the first PR agency to actually have a paid maternity leave policy. And, we had a lot of other employee-friendly policies as well. I retired from the PR field after co-founding my 3rd agency. So I left in 2015 and wanted to do something else, but I had a non-compete, so I wasn't able to start another PR agency, nor was I really interested in doing that. So what I did was start a consultancy called Joyful Planet, which is actually focused on building purpose-driven individuals and organizations. And Joyful Planet is both the name of my consultancy as well as my vision for the planet of 8 billion people actively living their purpose and leveraging their talent, their expertise, and their passion in service of other people and our planet. And I believe if we can do that we can together create a more joyful planet. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. Thank you.
Just a great way to incorporate, mission and purpose with passion, right? And that's something, and rule number one, ladies, take a note, right? That is the whole idea. Wake up every day with passion when you put your boots on the ground and incorporate mission into everything you do every day, and you'll never have a sad day in your life. Pamela, you want to pick up from there?
Good morning, everybody. That's great advice to start the day off with, for sure. That mission and some coffee. That's my motto. So, good morning, everybody. My name is Pamela Autorino. I am with Cisco Systems. So I've been in the technology industry for over 3 decades, which I cannot believe at this juncture. And I've always been with large corporations. I started my career with AT&T. I went into what they called a Darth Vader training program to learn about telephony and service providers and things that I had no idea about. I went to college for marketing. I graduated from Pace University in New York City and Westchester County. While I went to school, I waitressed, had the breakfast shift at a hotel near my house. I lived at home, and I actually never thought that the technology industry was where I was going to end up. But here I am, decades later, with a lot of experience in the industry, a lot of barriers along the way. But I think I was young and unaware that they were actually barriers. So kind of drove through them in a lot of ways. And I'm really looking forward to having the conversation with all of you on how I might be able to share some insights and experiences and be available for people. Because after all of these decades of just kind of grinding, I've been in a sales career my entire life. I love it. But I really am kind of passionate now about how can I give back? How can I take some of those simple learnings and give it back to young women and men that are just beginning their journey? I've got 2 daughters that I love to use as my testing ground for most things that I do these days. And I'm really glad to be here today. So, Michele, I'll hand it back over to you to get us started.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. Nexi may be having some audio issues, but let's see if we can hear you, Nexi. Why don't you pick up and tell us a little bit more about your journey, and then we're going to circle back to this whole idea of people along the way, right? But Nexi, pick up from here.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was having issues with my audio. Yes, as I said before, I started working as an educator. I spent 14 years teaching history and religion to kids from 4th grade to 7th grade. But at the same time that I was studying, I did my bachelor degree in Spain. I started teaching there in Spain, and it was in that environment that I got in contact with the first computer ever, and I don't know, that really touched me. It was back in Windows MS-DOS 6.1. And since I have my first interaction with a computer, I said, wow, this is really, it's something that I would like to learn more about. And then I decided just to come back to the United States. And while I was doing my master's degree in Seton Hall University here in New Jersey, I started doing my own certifications in computer. I kept working in the field of education, but with, I would say, parallel careers, in the sense that I was trying to get ready to work with computers and computer repairs. I was passionate about, ripping one computer, putting the computer apart, and then putting it back together. And also with the software, I was very interested into be able to troubleshoot and help people. Then in 2001, I became the director of one daycare. And the first thing that I did was to create a lab, computer lab for the kids. And then that was amazing, right? got computers that they were donated, and I fixed it, and I added some preschool programs to it. I showed the staff member how to use it, and I was so pleased to have the first lab in our environment. But unfortunately, it was in 2007 that my mom got sick, and I needed to leave everything behind. I went back to Puerto Rico to take care of her. And along with my brothers, I have four brothers, and I'm the only girl. And I was taking care of my mom, and to sustain myself, I created my own computer company, repair company. I also did another certification in computer repair. And when I was with my mom taking care of her, I was, helping college student with the computer needs, and they were bringing me the computers home. I was preparing them, and also working with remote assistant, obviously. And then when my mom passed away in 2013, I decided to come back to the United States. I knocked a lot of doors because I was trying to went back to the education field, but it was really difficult to find a position, a lot of competition. And I said, wait a minute, if you are so prepared in computers, in technology, what about getting a computer technology job? And that's what I did. And I started from down below, right? Because I had to be humble. I needed to, I couldn't find a managerial position, back then. So I started working in Best Buy as an advanced computer agent. I spent many, many hours in the back of the store fixing computers, sometimes like having like 20 computers at the same time. And that was my work. After 10 months, because I kept applying, I was given the opportunity to work for another bank. And it was then when I really started racing, in my career. I got a position as a PC support technician for the corporate office of that bank in One Penn Plaza, 29th floor. And I was taking care of all of the executives, president of the bank, and commercial lending, and healthcare. Well, mentioned 64 people in total in that place, plus 13 branches around the city. And also the international department that I was a very demanding department. And little by little, I obviously needed to show them that they can trust me, that I knew what I was doing. And at the beginning, it was a little bit difficult. I was the first female taking that position. And you can, I was able to notice that not everybody was like, oh, I don't know if this lady will be able to take over all of these responsibilities. But I showed them that I was capable, I was prepared. And after 10 months in my position, my boss came to me. I was by myself without supervision. And my boss came from New Jersey, the headquarters of that bank. They still are in New Jersey. And he told me, okay, listen, Nexaida, I am retiring, and I would like to know if you want my position. It was like, I told him, listen, I can't, because I haven't been in my position for 1 year, and as HR requires to be in 1 year in the same position to move forward, to change or to be transferred to another department. That was the rule back then. And sure enough, I couldn't get his position because I was not allowed. But it was already an accomplishment for me that he thought about me to get his position because he was retiring. And that's the kind of people that we find in our life, that they do believe in us and they do give us the opportunity. And I'm very grateful to Alan Bernstein for that opportunity. And then after that, like in a year and a half, I was promoted to be the supervisor. I was brought back to New Jersey, and then I have a wonderful manager, Amanda Miller. She was really a role model for me, and she promoted me to be the manager. And I think it was, I think this is all about determination. Wanted to show that I'm always passionate to help, and the people that come to me, they know that they're gonna be provided with a solution, because I strive and I try. I don't know everything, but I try my best to always provide the solution that they need, right? And I always say, thanks to the people that we serve, we have this amazing job, right? It's something that I'm very grateful for. And then,
Nexi, your journey, your journey, there's themes just coming here, right? Your persistence, yes, and your pursuit of goal, and always being prepared. These are the attributes of leadership. And when we show these attributes along with that passion, right, we're recognized, we're visible, and then people can have faith and confidence that we can get a job done. So you mentioned someone along your path. I'd like to circle back to Patrice and ask Patrice, someone along your path who helped to either lift you up along the way or teach you a life lesson that sent you in a different direction, be it a mentor, a sponsor, or a role model, and the importance of that person.
Yeah. Well, I think my most important role model was my mother. And growing up in Hawaii, my mother was one of the few mothers who worked, and she loved working. And she worked since she was like 14 years old, before I guess it was legal to do that. And she loved sales work. And, she got involved with a company, an Australian-based company. It was kind of like an Amway type company. And she became this regional manager, 60 people in her group. So she got an override on everything they sold. And she just loved doing what she did. She would get all dressed up and go out, and they would do house parties at people's homes. And then she would sell. I mean, it was like the total culmination of everything she loved doing. She was warm, loving. She loved to host. She loved to make people feel, included in whatever gathering. And my mother was one of these people. The lesson that she taught us from when we were very young, and I actually believe that it has served me as well in the playground as in the boardroom. And she always used to say, now, don't forget to share your cookies and toys. And that was like, and she was serious. Share your cookies and toys. Every time we went out to play, that was it. And if children came to play at our house, and if she saw that we weren't doing that, she would just take our cookies and toys and give it to another child. So we actually had to share defensively. Otherwise, she would swoop in. And that, I think she understood that nobody's going to want to play with you if you don't share. And even when I started my first agency, and I really had no intention or desire to start an agency, it was just a creative solution to avoid having to terminate 3 dear colleagues when we lost our biggest client. And I was the only one who put money into this. However, I wanted everyone of the 13 of us to be employee owners. So I figured out a way so people could buy their equity. And so we became 13 employee owners. And having everybody participate in equity, to me, was the reason that we accomplished as much as we did, because everybody was motivated and everybody understood that we're all in it together. And if I work hard, I will reap the benefits of that reward. So share your cookies and toys. I think it applies everywhere in my life and still to this day. So thank you. Thank you, Mom.
I think that is fantastic. I'm sure many of us could look to, having observed and watched, our mothers who, generationally had a tough climb, and the things we learned from there. But I love that. I always talk about the sandbox and, letting everybody in the sandbox, but don't throw sand in my eyes. Like I won't tolerate that. Right. So no bullies allowed in the sandbox, and nobody's allowed to take all the cookies off the plate. Right, Patrice? Right. Everybody's got to share equally. I love that. Pam, along your journey, someone who had a lasting impression on you and perhaps some words of wisdom they shared with you.
Well, thank you. Those were two great stories. Share your cookies and toys. I love that. And also just the conversation around trust, determination, and being prepared. I've had a lot of influences, but as you hear from the other two panelists, family, parents, they are so influential in your life. And my mother certainly was that. And so was my dad. My dad was an insurance salesman, and he loved his job, and he was promoted kind of early on, but then he realized that he didn't want to kind of lead people. And I remember my mother always being frustrated with my dad that he didn't want to take that promotion. He wanted to go back and be an individual contributor and have more control over what he did every day. And every day he would go out and he would, have his appointments and meet his clients. And then every Wednesday he would play golf. And it was a great thing to watch my dad balance his life. He balanced his work, he balanced his enjoyment, and he was true to himself. And I think that very often we get lost in a pursuit, right? Like, what is our mission? And my mission was to create a career for myself. I can honestly say I don't love technology, but I love what it can do for others. And I love the fact that it gave me an opportunity to create a career for myself. And I was forced to get smarter about technology. And I'll tell you, quick funny story. I couldn't get on the Zoom call today. And I've been in technology for decades, right? Because my device would not authorize a Zoom call. So I'm on my phone, which is really funny after all these decades. And I know my husband's going to give me so much grief about that, but that's a reality, right? So we're always learning. We always have to be prepared. We always have to get started early. Fortunately, I figured it out. I'm on my phone and it's working. But I know my dad led me into a sales career, and there were so many people along the way that helped me to nurture and build upon it. It's a fun place to be, sales and technology. There's so many stories to be told. I know there's a session on storytelling. Please attend it, because storytelling is so important. Like your inflection of your voice, how you prepare for it, how you present it, how you're coming across to your audience. You want to keep people's attention, and it's not easy keeping people's attention, right? You have to go in with a prepared conversation, yet you need to be ready to go off script when you need to. And I'll never forget, I had an experience, actually it was at Cisco, and I love Cisco. Cisco is a great company to work for. I hear these other women and there's so much entrepreneurial spirit, and I feel like I've always had entrepreneurial spirit, but yet I'm working for a big company. And actually, I will come back to that, because even though you're working for a big company, your career is in your hands, right? I mean, it is everyone's responsibility to be accountable for your own career. So thinking about it and planning ahead is really important. But back to the story, I was going to a meeting with the CEO of my company, John Chambers, and we were in the car. We were going to see the CEO of my client, and we were in his car heading to the meeting. And I had worked for Lindley Noviello at the time, who made me prepare a briefing package over and over and over again. I couldn't understand why, but I did. I prepared endlessly. She would send it back to me. I would prepare it some more, send it back, prepare. So I'm in the car going to the meeting with him, and he asked me the primary objective and the intentions for the meeting. So I told him. Then he went back. He was doing some of his other work. Came back, asked me the same question again. I told him again. We pull up to the meeting, And he asks me exactly the same question, and all of a sudden self-doubt consumed me. Like, oh my gosh, they were the wrong answers, wrong objectives. And I'm like, no, I really prepared. I'm ready. I know. I have to be confident in myself here. So I answered the question the same way the third time, and he looked at me and he goes, very good. He was testing me. He wanted to know that I was prepared and that these were the 3 objectives. Anyway, it went on to be a great meeting, but I have, I've pondered on that a lot, because it's so easy to become doubtful of yourself. And it's so easy to think that, maybe I'm not good enough for this. Maybe I'm not articulate enough. Maybe I didn't prepare enough. But if you prepare, and if you really investigate, and if you really care about what you're doing and how you're going to show up, it's going to work out. You need to follow it through all the way to the end.
Hear, hear. I love that.
Yeah. That whole issue of being prepared, right? We all talk about, showing up and being present, but if you don't take the time to prepare ahead of time, you get caught out, right? You absolutely get caught out. Nexi, you mentioned, and again, there's themes here, right? So we pivoted from the moms to the mom and dad to the male figures. Nexi, you mentioned Alan, I believe his name was, right? Something we forget as women, or when we talk about leadership and women's leadership, we immediately think that every role model has to be a woman. I myself was guided by men in my life. Probably one of my biggest mentors was the male partner in my first law firm. And I always think about, things that he would say to me, and other men, right, who made comments along the way. What would so-and-so say? And I stop and think about that person and how they might direct me in the moment. And so I always want to, caution everyone as women, and we talk about leadership in women's space, that, men play a pivotal role in mentoring and sponsoring, bringing up, like Alan did for Nexi, or Alan tried to bring Nexi up, right? So Nexi, let's stay on this, like, people and resources also, though, whether or not, aside from, Alan, who was really a supporter for you, trying to bring you up, did you have a particular role model, or what other resources were so helpful to you as you were coming up through your very unique journey?
Well, after Alan, it was Amanda Miller. I was lucky enough to have a female role model, right? Because as you said, it's true. We are so few ladies in technology that it is hard to have a female as a role model. But I was lucky to have Amanda Miller. She was a very smart person. She is a very smart person. She mentors me. She was very tough sometimes, but also she was a great human being. And I think that looking at her with everything she knew about technology, and she was trying to show me all of that, and I took advantage of all of her willingness to share her knowledge. I'm sorry, and Amanda is this kind of person that she's not afraid of anything, and if she needed to go under a desk to unplug cables and to do whatever, she was down there on that desk working, and that was amazing for me, because I was following that example, and that's exactly what I do now. If I had to, roll my sleeves and do any kind of job, I will do it. I remember when I was in Wampum Plaza, we needed to replace all of the computers for core, from processor core to do to i-series processors, and I did it. I replaced 64 computers in a weekend, from Friday to Sunday. When they came back to the office on Monday, they all had brand new computers installed. It is following examples of people that we can do the job, and as I said before, determination. Okay, I can do it. It was a very long weekend, right? Because I was working very hard since very early in the morning till Sunday very late. But I was able to accomplish that, and yeah, if I wouldn't have such a role model, probably I would have done it, right? And I still in communication with Amanda, even though I don't work in that bank anymore. And she still mentoring me. So that's something amazing. I mean, I changed my job because one of my former employees at the other bank started working in the Metropolitan Commercial Bank, and he recommended me for this position, for the IT help desk manager. And this is also a great accomplishment. And, you know, that a former employee wanted to work with you again. So something good I was doing, right?
Oh,
And that's what I can say is, you know, I was lucky to have Amanda in my life.
That's wonderful. You know, this panel is about, you know, kind of breaking through barriers. And so we have a question from Shalini, and it's interesting, Shalini, this is spot on, because this is something that happens oftentimes. Sometimes we'll be in a room and when we get shut out from expressing our ideas because they think that what would we know? We're either not the subject matter expert or just because maybe unfortunately we're the woman in the room and it's male dominated. It does happen sometimes, right? How do we handle a situation where we need to break into the discussion in a room because we have something relevant to put on the table, not talk for talk, not just to be seen in the room, but to make a point that we feel needs to be made in the moment when others are kind of politely, you know, kind of dismissing the fact that we're even in the room. Patrice, do you have an example you could share? I see you nodding your head.
Oh, I'm just agreeing with so much that has been said. But to your question, I think that you have to, you know, find the courage to speak up and speak your truth, especially if no one wants to say what you think is clearly, you know, the solution, or even if no one has said it, you need to speak up and say it so that you won't be kicking yourself later when somebody else says it. And here's the other thing. Sometimes you'll say something which is maybe dismissed or unacknowledged. And then 5 minutes later, a guy says exactly the same thing. You need to pipe right up and say, Al, I think that's a great idea. And when I said it 5 minutes ago, I meant blah, blah, blah. You need to claim it and own it and, you know, make it be known that you are not going to let someone take your idea and present it as their own. No, I mean, I am a very, I like to think a very kind and loving person. However, if somebody, and especially if it's a guy or anybody, tries to mess with me, and I, you know, if we weren't in a public space, I would use a stronger word. But if somebody tried to mess with me, I would mess right back with them, because people have to be called on their bad behavior on the spot in that moment in time, so they don't do it again. And it serves as notice that don't mess with her because she's going to call you on your shit, right? So
yes,
probably more than
right.
you wanted.
But it's, you know, and it's always, you know, thank you for agreeing with me. You know, wow, I'm so glad that my message resonated around the table, right? But we could all be there for each other in that scenario too. If we're fortunate enough to be 2 or 3 women in the room, give a sister a lift, right? Yes. And so when Patrice makes her comment, you know, then I step in and say, Patrice, what a great idea. You know, can you expound on that? Or Alan, what do you think about Patrice's idea? And like get her idea right in the middle of the table, right?
Yes, that's great. I love that build.
Absolutely. Pam, something to offer?
I love it. I mean, that conversation is so spot on. I think they even made a commercial about something like that a couple of years back where the woman says something and then a man says it, you know, 30 seconds later in the commercial and everybody's like, oh my God, that's a great idea. It happens a lot. And I think the tag teaming, like you just described, is a really good way to you know, get your point across. You know, I mean, Patrice, you were so funny when you were describing the situation, but it is true. And I think there's a skillful way to connect the dots, right? I mean, you can absolutely endorse the person who said the same thing that you're saying and just jump on it with them. Yes, I'm so glad you heard me. I'm so glad we're on the same page about that. What plan do we make around it, right? And create some of the next steps. What I was thinking when I, you know, came up with it, and you don't have to be so overt, but you have to be clear, right? You have to be clear that, yeah, I was thinking it, and this is the other two things I was thinking about when it occurred to me, because I think we should create a task force, maybe you and I can work together. Let's create that as a priority to follow up, but keep the enthusiasm. Don't be angry, right? You can't be angry. That's not going to get you anywhere. You have to be a team player. You need to finesse the situation so that it's just moving forward. Because at the end of the day, everybody wants to, win together, right? I mean, I've had situations where it has been pulled from under me. And you want to know something? It comes around. I'll never forget, I was peers with someone who took full credit for what I did. And this was a long time ago. I will never forget it, ever. That person came for a job and someone asked me about that person. I'm like, I don't have any comment. They didn't get it. Listen, that shit comes around. Now that we've said the word, it's out there. It comes around, and it will come around on you. Yes. So, and I love to have your sisters back there. I mean, we need to move together.
Yes,
absolutely. And this is now comes the balance, right? Is the whole concept of how do we be proactive and put ourselves, in the center of the table when it's appropriate for us to be there, right? Not just to be there, versus that perception that we're being too aggressive. And we go through this all the time, right? And that's a delicate balance. And I think some of the comments that you ladies made, right? The right way of how we use our words, how we use our body language, right? We're not there to be on the attack. You're not lurching across the table, right? You're sitting very calmly, very nicely. You're asserting your power through your confidence from within, right? And I think we have ways of ensuring that, we're not coming out as like, being this overwhelming presence in the room to take all the air out of the room with something, because that can turn negative on us, right? What we want to do is make ourselves part of the space around the table. And how we use our words to do that is important. And someone made a note. It's in the Q&A, not in the chat. But The Confidence Code by Katty Kay is a great book. So take note of that. I'll drop it in the chat as well. And yes, it's correct. Maria is saying, do men worry about seeking the right balance? Look, our DNA is all different. Okay, we all have a different way, and you can see dynamics in a room of how men just kind of seem to just roll anything off without thinking about it. And we are so intentional with what we do, which is what I think makes us so powerful as women. Go ahead, Nexi, you want to share something?
Yes, I would like just to make a point, because that researchers have shown that all women have higher levels of emotional intelligence, and that's a great tool that we have. So let's keep using it.
100%. We have about 5 minutes left, ladies. I don't know if folks have more questions in the audience. I'm seeing some comments about claim it and own it, etc. If anybody has a question, drop it in the chat or in the Q&A. But while we're waiting on that, I want to ask the ladies an aha moment in your life. Something, that was, semi-profound, that caused you either to get the energy to jump to the next level, or the realization that you needed to think about something different and shift or pivot or anything like that. But Pam, you have an aha moment?
Yeah, there's several. My current aha moment, after being in this industry for so many decades, I've only worked for 2 employers. Overall 2 employers. And I think often about my career, my responsibility. I've been accountable. I'm leading a great team right now. I really love my job. But I wish I had made moves along the way. I wish I had thought through some things along the way that maybe would have put me, into some other opportunities. So just the idea of like self-actualization, really being where you are, enjoying what you're doing, and knowing that you have full control. My career, as I look back on it now, it was fully in my control, the good and the bad. And I would just encourage everybody to reflect, self-reflect, and take accountability, and reach out to people who, the other, 2 ears, 1 mouth for a reason. Listen twice as much as you speak. because when you speak, it'll be meaningful.
Yeah, absolutely. Nexi, any of those, kind of ahas or a last thought you'd like to share?
I can say that my biggest aha moment was the time that I decided just to jump into technology. I cannot be more grateful for everything that I have done, all of the service that I have provided to so many people. And I think that in my career, I'm more than willing to keep, trying to do my best to help, to do my best to provide solutions, because that's why our people come to us, to the help desk, right? And I'm more than committed to make my company grow, and to do anything I had to do. And yes, I completely agree with Pamela. I mean, it's true. Our future, our work, everything is in our hands. Yeah. And I am responsible for what is happening, and if I move forward, I'm responsible for that because I'm working hard to get it. But if I don't, it's also my responsibility. So we have to keep ourselves accountable, right? And
no one's going to help you, right? If you don't help yourself, right? Patrice?
Yeah. I was trying to think of the aha moment, and then I realized, it always surprises me when women, don't have a network. They haven't taken time over their life and career to build a network, or as my friend Leslie Grossman says, an entourage of support. And you build that network by building relationships with people, right? You support other people, and when you need support, it's there for you. You know who you can turn to. And I have a lot of people in my network because I have taken time and really sometimes made a significant investment to help someone succeed at whatever they were trying to do. So I say, if you don't have a network, don't think you can start creating it when you're looking for a job. It's too late. You need to, work on building your relationships with others, all the way along your career. So those times when you might be looking for another opportunity, you have people who can help you. And a lot of our biggest clients came from people that I knew who I helped at one time or another. And I've also referred opportunities to other people because, oh my God, this would be a perfect fit, right? I mean, so please, ladies, there's no better support than the sisterhood that you create for yourself by sharing your abundance and being generous. I don't think you ever lose out by being generous and giving more than maybe other people think you should. Yeah. So
relationships are capital, and capital is king, right? And so, ladies, 45 minutes is not enough time to do justice to this topic, but let's leave some takeaways before I throw it back to Joanne, right? Passion. Have passion when you put your boots on the ground every day. Persistence, don't give up. Pursuit of goal, keep going for it. Always be prepared. Planning out your career and the power of relationships, right? Take those, 4 or 5 P's away. And I think we have some great life lessons for everybody. Ladies, it's been an extreme pleasure. Thank you so much. Round of applause for our speakers.